Another gross one for the Pacers. They host the Knicks. They lose by double digits. They can't stop Towns. They can't stop Josh Hart. They can't get a rebound. They can kind of score, but not good enough. And they change their starting lineup, and everyone hates it. I'll explain why I think they did it and much more on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, y'all? Happy Wednesday and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today, another gross game for the Pacers, who fall to 29-22. They lose to the Knicks by 13, 128-115, and it didn't feel that close. Their second half was rough. I mean, at times it was within a couple possessions, but mostly from the mid-second quarter to the end of the game, the Knicks were in control. The Knicks' dominant stretches mid-second to mid-third, mid-fourth to the end, they were much better. Pacers were never even really within striking distance. And this is now the fifth straight game the Pacers have been down 15 plus in. They are very lucky to have gone 2-3 in that stretch and to be 3-3 this month. So much to get to from this game. The Pacers defense stunk. Their rebounding stunk. Their offensive flow was They changed their starting lineup, and a lot of people don't like it. I'll explain why I think they did it. I don't think it's as crazy as people are saying, even though I would not have done it myself. And then we'll talk about just the Pacers not playing well right now. Can they actually get back on track before the break? They do play the Wizards tonight. I don't know if I'd pick the Pacers against many teams right now. They're down 15 to the Jazz a week ago. Okay, what happened against the Knicks? I mean, they were not good, obviously, in this game. And to me, it all starts with defense. I think anybody who watches this game would think that way. I had a few people say, this feels like an offensive loss to me, and I get that. And the Knicks are a top three offense, so it's not like insane that they scored 129. The Pacers did a good job against Jalen Brunson. I think he started 1 for 7. He went 4 for 11 in general. He had 7 assists, 3 turnovers, only 8 points. And that was largely because of foul trouble. He could not get on the floor. That is the end of the good things I can say about what the Pacers did stopping the Knicks. And I lead with that because if you knew that Jalen Brunson had 8 points on 11 shots and only played 22 and a half minutes, you would think the Pacers did great against the Knicks. And it was the opposite. They gave up 128 and they got humiliated because they could not stop the New York Knicks. They couldn't stop them no matter what. It starts with Karl Towns. Myles Turner was out. That's not why Towns was awesome, but it did limit the Pacers' options in defending him. Towns plays 38 minutes and 17 seconds. Thomas Bryant plays 32 minutes. I believe that's his high with the Pacers. It's close, and he had 4 fouls, so he couldn't play as much. I thought Thomas Bryant played very well, but Thomas Bryant had some rough moments defending Karl Towns. And when Thomas Bryant wasn't out there, the fives were Obi Toppin. At one point, it was Jarris Walker, Pascal Siakam front court. Regardless of what button the Pacers push, nobody could defend Karl Towns in this game. He did a good job in the first half, I thought, stepping out to threes in the right time. His quick trigger was dominant. But when he slithered into the paint, I mean, there was just nothing the Pacers could do with him. He was hitting at the basket. He was drawing contact. He was making great passes. He was making threatening plays defensively and pushing in transition. And the Pacers did not apply enough resistance. 40 points for Towns on 23 shots. He was plus 14, 12 boards, 5. I mean, I already named all the stats. He was so good. And at some point, Alex Golden was sitting next to me. Alex, I'm sorry for blasting out something you said to me in a private conversation. He said, man, they probably should switch up the matchup. And maybe they should try Siakam on him. I think he tweeted it, which is why I feel okay saying it. And I'm like, that's not going to help that much, right? Like, I get that Siakam might do better than Thomas Bryant's doing, but the Siakam's having an okay defensive game because he doesn't have to guard Precious at all. Like, switching that up means you're just really hoping he can slow down Towns. I don't think that would have worked. They couldn't really double him with the personnel they had available. Toppin had an atrocious defensive game. In general, he was very inattentive on that end of the floor. He was fine making his shots. He made 4 of his 5 twos, but his defense was just really rough in this game. Got beat by a ton of cuts. He couldn't contain Towns. Nobody could. Absolutely nobody could, right? And a lot of their defense spread out from there and what they were trying to do. And I could even sit here and through gritted teeth, had the Pacers won with Towns having that game, but Brunson being bad, been like, it's okay that Towns was good. He's a very good player. He's an all-star for a reason. The Knicks have this awesome offense. But what isn't easy to say and would not have been excusable in any sort of reality is Josh Hart just killed them. Josh Hart. Josh Hart made 11 two-point shots in this game on 13 attempts. 10 boards, 5 assists, 2 steals for Josh Hart on his way to 30 points. And I don't even say this to belittle Josh Hart. He's really good. He is really good. He does not score 30 points very often, and he did very easily in this game. And the way you could very easily describe and show someone how the Pacers defense was so bad is look at Josh Hart's shot chart. He took one left corner three. He took he took 2 threes from the right side of the floor, kind of above the break. He made one and missed the other. Every other shot he had was 5 feet in. And a lot of them were very easy. He had some like bullying layups, but he just got to the basket and scored. A lot of cuts, a lot of duck-ins, a lot of whatever he wanted. And again, this is the second best offense in the NBA, the New York Knicks. But it was so easy. It was so easy for the Knicks just all night, right? And those two combined for 70, and they both had double-digit boards, and they both had 5 assists. They both destroyed the Pacers, pretty much regardless of who was guarding them. And that's what was so problematic. They needed anyone to provide some resistance in those matchups. They needed any sort of force of power, of connectivity on a backside rotation to cut off a cut, some attention to detail and team defense. They had none of it. It was a very rough night for the Pacers on the defensive end of the floor, which they'll set after the game. And it has been a continued theme. Austin Reeves just tore them up, right? Kawhi for stretches, or James Harden for stretches, or whoever against the Clippers, right? The Blazers was a kind of a team thing. The Jazz was kind of a team thing, but Pacers defense has not been good recently, and 2 very good players destroyed it Tuesday night. And then off the bench, Campaign got good looks, right? He was 3 for 4 on 2s. Deuce McBride made all 4 of his wide open 3s. Campaign had 8 assists. Landry Shamet was 5 of 9, right? Those guys were great. Deuce McBride plus 25 in this game. He was very good. He was very efficient. 15 points on 7 shots, right? The Pacers did not provide enough resistance on defense in this game. And yet, that wasn't even like the end of their sad, not good enough effort, not enough, to use a Carlisle term that I totally agree with. Sometimes I feel like this is him saying like, not a buzzword, but just, describing like a couple plays. In this game, it felt like this was the story, and this was how I would describe how poorly the Pacers played. They played with no force, right? They had no physicality on defense. They weren't stopping those guys. When they did, right? The Knicks missed 42 shots in this game and 3 free throws. Okay, so that's 45 available boards. The Knicks got 13 of them. So nearly a third. They had 13 offensive rebounds. The Pacers had 27 defensive rebounds. I mean, that is just, that's how you have a chance in a game like this where a team's offense is so good. When you do get the stops, especially for a team that's pretty good in the open floor like the Pacers, you have to get the rebounds. And they didn't. And they didn't have Myles Turner available in this game, which is what most people usually point to. It's not a good rebounding team. It has never been a good rebounding team. Thomas Bryant was fine on the boards. He had 9. Again, Thomas Bryant played very well. No one else had more than 5. I mean, it was just Precious Achiuwa had 12 for Karl Towns, 10 for Josh Hart, who's always been a good rebounder for his position, 5 for Mikal Bridges. I mean, they just got destroyed on the glass. The other way they could have got out of this. So the Pacers, that is how they lost this game to me. Their defense and ability to get out of defense was just awful in this game. This felt worse to me defensively than the Lakers game did, which is weird because the Lakers had worse personnel available, but it just felt like the Pacers found a successful game plan against the Knicks, in theory, best offensive weapon, a guy who killed them in the playoffs last year, and they still, against the OG Anunoby-less and banged up, not playing well, Brunson Knicks, could not stop them. Credit to the Knicks, credit to Tibbs. He found ways to get Towns good shots. Josh Hart deserves a ton of credit for getting to the basket all the time. Their backup guards played very well. But the Pacers have to look in the mirror and say, what are we doing defensively? Where is their attention to detail on that end of the floor? Why are they losing so many guys? Why are they getting beat on some drives? What's going on the glass? I mean, just get it. They had to get it. It was not at all an inspiring performance on that end of the floor. And that was the biggest reason for the Pacers loss to me. Not all good on offense. We'll get to that later. But I also want to talk about the second biggest thing that everybody's talking about from this game. The Pacers changed their starting lineup. Whoa, after some terrible starts on the road. They did start this game better, but not great. Why did they do that? Should they have done that? What does it mean? Are the reasons they gave actually good? We'll talk about that here coming up on Locked On Pacers. Before we get to that, though, we need to talk about WayFair. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. I always find decluttering refreshing. Helps my space get back into the shape it's supposed to be. It gives me a routine. Whether you're tidying up, cleaning out, or just want to give your space a new look to start the year, WayFair is everything you need, all within your budget. Looking for furniture? They have a huge selection. It makes it easy to find pieces that fit your style and budget. My favorite part, free, hassle-free delivery, even for larger items. Wayfair's site is so easy to navigate. You can find everything you need in no time. There's something for everyone and every home, no matter your space or budget. It makes it easy to tackle your New Year's home goals with endless inspiration for every space. Whatever decor style you have, whatever items you like, they will have it at Wayfair and can even help you out in a time crunch with delivery. Free, fast, hassle-free. Give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Back here on Locked On Pacers, thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Make your second listen Locked On Knicks, the GOAT, Gavin Shaw, and of course the second GOAT, Alex Wolf. Will have more on the Knicks just rolling through. Big win for the Knicks. Bad loss for the Pacers. I mean, not bad, like the Knicks are good. It's not embarrassing to lose the Knicks, but this was for the tiebreaker, the head-to-head tiebreaker between those two teams this season. Seeding potential implications. Now it's going to be pretty dang tough for the Pacers to have any chance of getting to 3 to the extent that they even did already. Chance to make another statement against the Knicks. They could not do it. All right, the other big story everybody talking about, I asked about it after the game. Starting lineup changed up. In comes Aaron Nesmith. To the bench goes Ben Mathurin. I'm going to say a lot of things in this segment. Some of them I've said before. Some of them I have not said before. Some of them Rick Carlisle said. I will refresh you of it, something I've already said that I'm not making up that I've already said it before. So I asked Rick Carlisle after the game, what he went to or why did he want to change the starting five. And before we get into his answer, I want to remind you guys of something I talked about literally yesterday, 2 days ago, on this very podcast, when I went into the Pacers' slow starts and asked, is this a lineup thing? Is it actually a lineup thing? Because let's be clear, and let's be clear throughout this whole segment. Myles Turner has played like 5 minutes since the Portland game and has played one game of this road trip. Okay, so Myles Turner did not play tonight. He won't play in Washington. He's out for the rest of the break. Let keep that fact to the side for a second. Let's start with this. The reason I have said the whole time that I would keep starting Ben Mathurin is because the Turner, Siakam, Nembhard, Haliburton, Mathurin group has been exceptional this year. The minute of me talking right now, they've played 405 minutes together. They have a plus 10.99 net rating, 117.4 offensive, 106.4 defensive. That's awesome, right? That's very good. However, I have to follow that up by saying this. They're plus 80. I just said this 2 days ago. They're plus 89 on the season. That's great. A lot of that was their early play, December, even early January. Look at the game log for that group of five. For the group of five of Haliburton, Nembhard, Mathurin, Siakam, and Turner. They have not had a game where they were better than +2 as a unit in over a month. I will read them all to you to prove it. Pacers, Clippers, February 6th, -8 was that lineup in 5 minutes and 47 seconds. Pacers, Blazers, 19 minutes and 2 seconds, -16. Pacers, Hawks, 17 minutes and 24 seconds, -6. Pacers, Spurs, round 2 in Paris, 14 minutes, 34 seconds, +2. That's their best game yet, is +2. Pacers, Spurs, round 1, 12 minutes, 39 seconds, -2. Pacers, Sixers, 11 minutes, 42 seconds, -6. Pacers, Cavs. This is the game. Yeah, this is round 1. 8 minutes, 53 seconds. Haliburton got hurt that game. Only played half of it. Regardless, -16. And then Pacers, Warriors. January 10th, over a month ago, +23. So you have to go back a month for that lineup to have a single game where they were better than +2. Now, the stretch right before that was exceptional, right? Plus 23 against the Warriors, plus 10 against the Nets, plus 15 against the Suns, plus 16 against the Heat. Then you can go back even to December, plus 14 against the Warriors then, plus 10 against the Suns on the road, plus 10 against the Pelicans at home, plus 16 against the Sixers right when they got this run started, right? That is where their net rating was built up. They were so good after Nembhard returned from injury, and they deserve to be good. They're a good lineup. Their net rating stats are still good. Their plus minus is still awesome, right? I stand by what I said, that I would have kept starting Ben Mathurin, even though I also did say, you can go back and verify this, that I thought at some point, I just thought they would go back to Nesmith. It just seemed like something they would do. And the reason, so when I had this conversation with John Washburn about the Pacers changing their starting five, his reason for, he's a Nesmith guy, his reason for that is it's the best for Siakam and Haliburton when Nesmith is there. And I will go back a year and say, before this season and before the context of that five that's been really good this year existing, I made the case last season that Mathurin with the bench made sense for Mathurin because he can have the ball more and have chances to do his thing, scoring, slashing, whatever you want to say his thing is, whatever you wanted to characterize it as, being an awesome player with the ball. He could do it more with the bench, right? So a lot of arguments historically, and a lot of people do think that Nesmith starting Mathurin off the bench makes sense. The long-term future of the Pacers, to me, combined with the fact that group had been so good this year for long stretches, even though most of it was over a month ago, did make me think they should stick with it. However, I do understand two things. One, I think that John's right that Nesmith does help the Stars at least have the ball more, have the chances, do their thing. Not a coincidence in this game that Siakam and Haliburton combined for 33 shots. And Mathurin was awesome and had lots of chances with the ball. He took the most shots of any bench player and took 11 free throws. Perhaps that's maximizing their roles. I don't think it's great to separate the Mathurin, Haliburton, Siakam minutes even more because figuring out the ceiling of that long term is very important for the Pacers. But I get why they would go away from it after a month of that lineup not being very good and a bunch of very, very bad starts in a row. The lineup this year that started this game. Now, again, Myles Turner did not play. Thomas Bryant started. The Turner, Siakam, Nesmith, Nembhard, Haliburton group this year is -3 in 83 minutes. However, in recent games, they've been above 0. +4 against Atlanta, +6 against Philly, +1 against Detroit, the game that Nesmith returned. So I get it. I get why they made the switch they did. They do have legitimate points they can use and legitimate basketball reasons they can say to do this, right? I've looked at this a lot. Again, I would not have done it. But I'm not going to sit here and say it makes no sense to me. This is crazy. This is stupid. It does change things, though. The reasons Carlisle gave, I said, you switch the starting lineup. What'd you think? Ben came off the bench, all that. How did you get to that? Obviously, I'm in the wrong chat. I thought I had Rick Carlisle's post-game press conference up, and I don't. That explains why that quote looked so goofy. I was like, that's not what Rick Carlisle said when I asked him about it. So I asked him about the starting lineup and that switch. He said there were a lot of indicators pointing to the fact that it was the right thing to do. He said a lot of things that were trending in terms of who was playing with who and which was going a good direction and which was not. So that is what makes me think about what I just said about the last month. The direction the old starting five was going was downward. And the direction the new starting five was going, 1, was upward. And 2, last year was an awesome group, right? Again, I am not saying with any of the things I'm going to continue saying that I would have done this. Last year, that starting five was +66 in 444 minutes. That's just barely worse than the group this year's been. That's been bad for a month. That's why I think saying it was trending. Let me make sure he did not say trending. The direction of those lineups. That's why I buy that. I truly buy that as a reason. And so he said they handled it great. Their start was better in this game than it was in old games. Their second half was worse. Mathurin came in and was awesome, made things happen. He had the ball more. So I will say this. There is a chance that this is the right move. If Mathurin comes in off the bench, plays engaged team defense, gets his points, finds his ways to score, especially with McConnell struggling, they need that bench punch. if that works well to make the bench better, this might be the right choice, especially if it helps Haliburton get going a little bit by giving him just a few more chances, especially early in games. However, they are taking a lineup and reducing its minutes that was exceptional for a very long time this season and has probably more long-term upside. Probably. Not certainty, because 3-and-D wings are valuable. In this game specifically, Aaron Nesmith had some troubles. 4 fouls, his biggest problem. Got to clean it up. He had 3 assists, but he missed all of his shots. He did not play well. Foul trouble limited him to 13 minutes and 26 seconds. I don't know how the minutes would have shaken out if he didn't have foul trouble. That said, a lot of people, call this a demotion or a doghouse for Mathurin. Maybe I don't think that way, especially if he actually gets more chances to play in the way that makes him awesome. He played more minutes than Nesmith and than Nembhard in this game. If he plays well in the role, he will still play a lot. That, again, there are a lot of ways they can justify this as something that does make sense. For the third and final time, because I'm going to get a million comments about how stupid this is, I would not have done this. I don't think it's stupid at all, right? And I did think, just given what we've seen from this team and what their lineup was in the playoffs last year, I still did, in my heart of hearts, think they would go back to Nesmith. Now, we don't know is this going to be something that continue long term? When Myles Turner returns, how does this look? Right? There's still a lot that needs to be answered about this, but I don't think it's crazy. Pascal Siakam did his post-game press conference tonight, and he also mentioned last year and their comfortability with Aaron Nesmith and his. Let me scroll down and find his answer. He said anybody can play anywhere. I think, trying to get those 40, blah blah blah. He said I thought we were pretty decent at the start. We just missed some shots. I can't find it. The quote he had. Oh yeah, obviously we're used to it, and with Aaron out there, right? So I don't think it's crazy that they did this. I get why fans are like, this is bad, this is stupid, Rick's an idiot. His justification that he gave does make sense to me. I can go find tons of data that agrees with what he says. That does not mean I would have done it, but I can find and justify. And I actually found that data and said it on this podcast before he said that. This is not me backdating my opinion to agree with him. So I've been rambling for a while, throwing you numbers, throwing you quotes and all that to say this. Would I have done it? No. I'll say that for like the 5th or 6th time. Does it make sense to me with the reasons they provided? And is it possible that it's the right move? Yes, certainly. I'm going to give it like the rest of the month to really sit and simmer and see how it goes. Mathurin's a different player now. He has gotten better at evolving who he needs to be for the Pacers and who he is. And the Pacers ecosystem has evolved. Haliburton's not the same player as last year, right? They have Thomas Bryant now. Siakam is playing at a different level than last year himself. He's better, right? Nembhard's defense is taking a step forward. They're a different team with different dynamics, right? McConnell's not the same player. So how this settles out and how it comes out in the wash will matter. But this was the first game of it. I get it, and we will see where it goes. The Pacers are not playing well recently. Why? Is it very simple? Is it come down to one of the most common basketball tropes? We'll close out today's show asking that question and getting into a few more small things from this game. Before we get into that, we need to talk about Open Phone. Running a small business means you're wearing a lot of hats. Your personal phone becomes your business phone, and before you know it, you're juggling customer calls day and night. As your team grows, it becomes impossible to manage everything with just your personal number. That's where Open Phone comes in. It's the #1 business phone system designed to help you keep your work and personal life separate. For just $15 a month, cost of a few coffees, you get you get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business phone number. Open Phone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you have a rundown of your calls and action items the second you hang up. If you miss a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your customer, ensuring you never miss an opportunity to engage. Right now, OpenPhone is offering 20% off your first 6 months. What a deal. When you go to openphone.com/LocdownNBA, that's OPENPHONE.com/LocdownNBA for 20% off 6 months. Openphone.com/LocdownNBA. And if you have an existing number with a different service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. Back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making this your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen has to be Locked On NBA because you can hear me and Wes Goldberg talk about the games of the night on Tuesday night in the NBA. Pacers Knicks. Kevin Durant has 30,000 points. The Pistons were up 42 points at halftime in Chicago, and the Sixers are sad. And we talk about all that. The Pacers are not playing well right now. They're it's a miracle they're 3-3 this month, right? They played better against the Hawks, and I think people give them they weren't dreadful against the Hawks, but they had to squeak it out late. They were dreadful for a lot of the game against the Jazz and pulled off a miracle. They were dreadful for long stretches against the Clippers and pulled out a miracle. And they got smoked by the Blazers, largely smoked. They came back by the Lakers and smoked by the Knicks. They're not playing well. Why? One, their defense hasn't been as good. Reeves killed them. A lot of Blazers players killed them. Brunson didn't, but Cat did. I mean, Trae Young did. They have not defended well. And the defense turned their season around. They've got to find a way to get that back. However, I will add this, and I mentioned this when I talked about slow starts, and I talked about the data for the starting five 2 days ago. Their opponents are really hot from deep. The Knicks weren't that hot. I think they were 10 for 27. Yeah, 37% from deep. Pretty normal. But the Pacers are shooting awful right now. Whole team funk. Thank you, Derek Kramer, for my Pacers blog for the tweet. Pacers, 3-point percentages since they got back from Paris. First game, 50%. Beat Detroit. Great. That works. They needed that. They needed to beat Detroit for the tiebreaker. They needed to beat Detroit to feel good. They needed to get back from Paris with the win. That works. Then they played Atlanta. 36%. They won that game. All right. Then they played Utah. 24%. Oof. Their lowest make percentage in a win this season. Then they played Portland. 21%. 33% against the Clippers. They won. 32% against the Lakers. They lost. 29% tonight against the Knicks last night for you listening. So they have not made over a third of their threes since they played the Hawks. They've made over a third of their threes once this month. They've made over league average from threes 0 times this month. Only once since returning from Paris. That's the Detroit game. It's never this simple. They're playing bad defense. Their stars need to be better. They're changing their rotation. Make or miss league, baby. They got to make some threes. I mean, maybe they play the Wizards, who also stink, and the Wizards will miss some threes, and the Pacers make 35% and they just win. But that is, I think, a big problem they've been having. Beyond their defensive issues is that they can't make anything. They cannot make threes. Anybody. That would go a long way. I asked about that after the game. I asked for Carlisle. I said, hey, you guys have shot pretty poorly. I think 5 or 6 games in a row. Do you like the shots you're getting still? Is there something to this? He seems to like the shots. They're just not, really going in. And he said, my recollection is a lot of them are pretty good. It's a process. The shot making goes up and down. We just can't allow it to affect other parts of our game. And I totally agree with that. They're definitely a flow team. And when they're not making shots and their flow is thrown off and their confidence isn't there, they play worse in other areas. He said he'll take a look at tonight's shots. And then he went on to talk about rebounding and defense being bad. So what's really going on recently? Well, they're not defending well. They're not playing well. We can all see it. It looks worse. But they're also not making anything. They've got to make some threes. A couple other small things from this game. Thomas Bryant was awesome. Thomas Bryant was terrific. 8 for 12 for 18 points, 9 boards, 4 assists, a block, only 1 turnover. They needed him to be good, and he did not defend Cat very well, but he gave them everything on offense. And he was their second most efficient player who played, and he took over 10 shots, and he deserved it. He fought well on the inside. He actually battled on the glass, unlike basically anybody else on the team. He's been he had some rough moments as a starter. Utah was bad, probably his worst game of the season. It wasn't particularly good against the Lakers, but man, is he just like the perfect Energizer Bunny fit for them. Great game from Thomas Bryant. The metronome, Siakam, was fine. Haliburton needs to be better. He was 16-8 with 4 turnovers. I mean, his defense was not good in this game. Tyrese Haliburton has been better on defense this season. This was not a good defensive game from him. 16 points on 15 shots. He's not playing great either. I asked him after the game. I'm reading too many quotes today, but there's some people have a lot of questions about this team and how they're playing right now. I asked him about his own play and his aggressiveness versus getting off the ball, because it feels like he's getting off the ball too early on drives. He said, I can always be better. Maybe a little bit overthinking. You need to go out there and play and be aggressive early. Totally agree. He needed to be better in this game. Ben Mathurin was quite good. He got to the line. He was aggressive. His team defense was not very good, but 4 assists, 18 points on 10 shots for Ben Mathurin. Ben Shepherd was also quite good. He had 12 points and made 2 threes. in this one, but not a lot of just standouts beyond the guys I've already said. Nembhard's been in a funk offensively for a bit now. Neesmith missed all his shots and had foul trouble. Toppin's defense really rough, marred his offense. McConnell got going in the fourth quarter, but he's just not been the same player this year. He had 6 assists, only 1 turnover, though. He was still okay. Jarris Walker came in for defense. It was fine. He had a very powerful dunk. He's got to work on that false step out of the sideline turnover he's got. The feel-good story of the day, to the extent anyone cares about this, a feel-good story in a bad loss. Jahlil Okafor, congratulations to another human being who has not played in the NBA since May of 2021 with the Pistons in the weird schedule post the season after the COVID year. Gets his first minutes since then. 1,367 days since his last game. Battled through the G League, went overseas, played well enough with the Mad Ants to get the call up. He did it. He got back in. That is awesome. Congrats to him. Lots of Knicks players walked up to him. We're very happy to see him before the game get another chance. He got 3 minutes and 22 seconds. He got a rebound. He got an assist. He logged a stat again in the NBA. Who knows what he wants his career to end as, but I think getting back has got to be just such a deep breath of fresh air, and nobody gets to go out on their own terms. Maybe he won't, right? Maybe he'll want to get back again and won't be able to, but to know that he did it has to just feel awesome. I'm very happy when that happens to guys. Isaiah Thomas, Lance Stevenson, guys who have that journey. But great for Jahlil. I suspect they'll continue to turn to Toppin as the backup 5 in Washington, but he made it. He made it back, and he earned it. He played pretty well for the Mad Ants this year. Tomorrow, we'll be talking Pacers-Wizards. What happened? Did the Pacers actually bounce back? Did they somehow have a winning record in February? Are they going out sad into the All-Star break? We'll talk about all that here. Then Friday, Jimmy Cook will join us for a show about lots of stuff. Why are they playing bad? Can they get better? Yada, yada. And then next week, we'll see. Lots of pre-recorded shows. Got something important going on this weekend. Thank you guys for watching and listening today. You can find me on Twitter at Tony R. East, and this podcast is there at Locked On Pacers. I'm also on Blue Sky. I'm very sorry to my Blue Sky Ians. I've been neglecting Blue Sky too much this week. It's not worth getting into. Back tomorrow, talking more Pacers. Till then, everybody, have a wonderful day.